The cargo bay of the interstellar trading station Epsilon 7 was usually a place of organized chaos. Today, it was just chaos. Senior trainer Vexral, a tall Crothian with blue-scaled skin and 4 arms, stood at a safe distance from the massive reinforced containment unit. Inside, something was throwing itself against the walls with enough force to make the metal groan. "Absolutely not," Vexral said, all 4 of his hands raised in a gesture of absolute refusal. "I will not work with that thing. It bites anything that moves. Anything. My assistant lost 2 fingers yesterday, and he was wearing full protective gear." Captain Sarah Chen stood next to him, her arms crossed, looking completely unbothered by the violent sounds coming from the container. She was average height by human standards, with short black hair and calm brown eyes that had seen more than most people twice her age. "What species is it?" she asked. Vexral's translator device struggled with the name. "The Galactic Database calls it a Thornback Ravager. They come from a death world in the outer spiral. The planet has 3 suns and gravity twice what most species can handle. Everything there evolved to kill everything else. This one was captured for the Empress's exotic animal collection, but now nobody wants to transport it. It already killed 1 handler and injured 6 others during initial capture." Sarah walked closer to the container. Vexral made a hissing sound of alarm. "Human! Stay back! Did you not hear what I said?" But Sarah was already standing right next to the reinforced walls, peering through the small observation window. Inside, she could see a creature about the size of an earth bear, but that was where the similarities ended. It had 6 legs, each ending in claws that looked sharp enough to cut through steel. Its body was covered in dark purple scales with sharp bone ridges running along its spine. The head was massive, with 3 sets of eyes and a mouth full of teeth that looked more like swords than fangs. As Sarah watched, the creature threw itself at the wall again, its claws leaving deep scratches in the metal. Then it noticed her watching. All 6 eyes focused on her face. It opened its mouth and released a sound that was part roar, part screech, designed to terrify prey. Sarah didn't flinch. She just studied it carefully. "How long has it been in there?" she asked. 4 days, Vexral answered from his safe distance. "We have been trying to sedate it, but its metabolism is so fast that drugs wear off in minutes. It refuses to eat. We have offered it food from 30 different planets. It just attacks anyone who gets close enough." "What was it eating on its home planet?" "Large prey animals. It is an apex predator. Nothing hunts them. They hunt everything." Sarah nodded slowly. "Can you lower the lights in the bay?" "What? Why would we—" "Just trust me. Lower the lights." Vexral hesitated, then used one of his many hands to activate his wrist communicator. The bright white lights of the cargo bay dimmed to a soft glow. The creature inside the container immediately stopped throwing itself at the walls. It paced instead, its breathing heavy. "Now turn off the climate control near the container. Make it warmer." "The heat will be uncomfortable for most species," Vexral protested. "But not for something from a planet with 3 suns," Sarah said. "It is not aggressive. It is terrified and stressed." "Terrified?" "It killed a handler. Because it is scared and trapped in an environment that feels completely wrong." Sarah watched as the temperature increased. The creature's pacing slowed slightly. "Everything about this place is wrong for it. The cold, the bright artificial lights, the metal walls, the smell of dozens of different species. Imagine being ripped away from everything you know and put in a place where every sense tells you that you are in danger." Vexral was quiet for a moment. "The database says they have no capacity for domestication. They are too aggressive, too primitive. The database is written by people who judge animals by their own standards," Sarah said. She pulled out her communicator. "I need you to get me some things. Fresh raw meat, the bloodier the better. Some large rocks or natural materials, not metal. And I need someone to set up some heat lamps that mimic natural sunlight. not this artificial blue-white stuff. You cannot be serious. You are not actually planning to go in there. Not yet. First, we make it feel safe. Over the next several hours, Sarah directed the station workers to modify the container. They brought in rocks and natural materials to cover some of the metal walls. They set up heat lamps that gave off a warm, yellow-orange glow similar to sunlight. They spread sand on the floor instead of leaving it bare metal. When the creature saw the changes, it stopped pacing and curled up in the warmest corner, watching the humans work through the observation window. "Now the food," Sarah said. "But do not throw it in. Put it near the door and step back. Let it come to the food, not the other way around." A nervous station worker used a mechanical arm to push a large slab of raw meat through a small opening, then quickly sealed it. The creature stared at the meat for several minutes, then slowly approached. It sniffed, then began to eat. It was the first food it had accepted in 4 days. Sarah watched with satisfaction. "See? It just needed to feel safe enough to eat." "Fine," Vexrall admitted. "You got it to eat, but that does not mean you can train it. It is still a killer. Every predator is a killer. That is what they do. But that does not mean they are mindless attack machines." Sarah had her hand pressed against the observation window now. The creature had finished eating and was looking at her again. This time it did not roar or throw itself at the walls. It just watched her with what might have been curiosity. "I am going in tomorrow," Sarah announced. The cargo bay erupted in protests from Vexrall and the other workers. Sarah held up her hand. "I have worked with dangerous animals on Earth for 15 years before I joined the space program. Tigers, crocodiles, bears, sharks. Earth is full of apex predators. I know what I am doing." "This is not an Earth animal." "No, but fear and aggression look the same across species. So does trust once you earn it." The next morning, Sarah stood outside the container door wearing minimal protective gear, just a thick jacket and gloves. The entire station staff had gathered to watch, convinced they were about to witness a human get torn apart. Vexrall had medical teams on standby. Sarah opened the door slowly and stepped inside, leaving the door slightly open behind her. The creature was in its warm corner. The moment Sarah entered, it rose to its feet, all 6 eyes locked on her. Its lips pulled back, showing those sword-like teeth. Sarah did not run. She did not make aggressive movements. She simply sat down on the floor, about 10 feet from the creature, and made herself small. Then she did something that confused everyone watching. She yawned. It was a long, exaggerated yawn that showed she was not tense, not ready to fight. In animal behavior, it was a calming signal. After the yawn, she looked away from the creature, not making direct eye contact, which could be seen as a challenge. Minutes passed. The creature did not attack. It watched her, clearly confused by this strange being that entered its space, but showed no signs of being a threat. Sarah reached into her pocket slowly and pulled out a small piece of meat. She tossed it gently toward the creature, not at it, but near it. The meat landed a few feet from its front claws. The creature sniffed it, then ate it quickly. Sarah tossed another piece, this time a bit closer to herself. The creature had to take a few steps forward to reach it. It hesitated, then moved forward and took the meat. This continued for 20 minutes. Each piece of meat brought the creature a little closer. Sarah kept her body language relaxed, non-threatening. She yawned several more times. She scratched her own head absent-mindedly, showing she was comfortable. Finally, the creature was close enough that Sarah could reach out and touch it. But she did not. She let the creature make the choice. It lowered its massive head, sniffing at her hand. Sarah remained still. Then slowly, the creature moved its head under her hand, the same way a cat might ask to be petted. Sarah smiled and gently scratched the ridge of bone behind its head. The creature made a sound, Not a roar this time, but something closer to a rumble, its 6 eyes closed halfway. Outside the container, the entire crowd was silent with shock. "Impossible," Vexrall whispered. Sarah continued scratching the creature's head, moving to the spots that seemed to make it relax the most. "You are not so scary, are you?" she said softly. "You are just far from home and scared. I understand that feeling." She spent another hour with the creature, building trust with gentle touches and calm presence. By the end of the session, the thornback ravager was lying on its side while Sarah scratched its belly, all 6 legs stretched out in complete relaxation. When Sarah finally exited the container, the crowd stared at her like she had just performed magic. "How?" Vexrall demanded. "The database said it was impossible to train. Every expert said it would attack anything that moved." Sarah shrugged. "Maybe your experts never tried understanding it first. Humans learned a long time ago that the most dangerous animals are not monsters. They are just animals doing what they need to do to survive. If you respect that and work with their nature instead of against it, most creatures can learn to trust you. But you could have been killed." "Maybe," Sarah admitted. "But I read the situation. I saw the signs. That creature was not aggressive by nature. It was stressed and afraid. Big difference." Over the next 2 weeks, Sarah worked with the thornback ravager every day. She taught it basic commands using positive reinforcement. She established feeding routines and playtime. She even gave it a name, Spike, which made Vexrall laugh despite himself. By the end of the 2nd week, Spike would come when Sarah called, would sit on command, and would allow Sarah to check its teeth and claws for health issues. More importantly, Spike had bonded with her. Whenever Sarah entered the cargo bay, Spike would make that rumbling sound and rush to the door to greet her. "I have been a trainer for 20 years, Vexrall admitted one day, watching Sarah play with Spike. "I have worked with hundreds of species. But I have never seen anything like this. How are humans so good at this?" Sarah threw a large ball for Spike to chase. The massive predator bounded after it like a puppy. On Earth, we evolved alongside apex predators. We had to learn to understand them, read their behavior, work with them, or around them. We domesticated wolves into dogs, turned wild cats into pets. We learned that empathy and patience can achieve what force and fear cannot. Your world must be terrifying." Sarah laughed. "It is. But it also taught us that the things that seem most dangerous are often just misunderstood. You called Spike a monster. But look at it now!" Spike had returned with the ball and dropped it at Sarah's feet, waiting eagerly for another throw. "I see a creature that just needed someone to show it kindness," Sarah said, and threw the ball again. The story of Sarah and Spike spread throughout the station and eventually across the galaxy. The impossible-to-train creature became an example of human stubbornness and empathy. The Empress ended up donating Spike to an Earth conservation program where it lived in a large habitat designed to mimic its home world, with Sarah visiting regularly. And Vexrall updated the galactic database entry for thornback ravagers. Where it once said impossible to domesticate, it now read, requires experienced handler with patience and understanding. Human trainers recommended.